Yeah, we're live. So we were doing the 24th chapter, and before we sort of start discussing the specific verses of the chapter 15, I think today we will essentially do a bit of introductory discussion by going back to a very introduction, a very interesting introduction provided by him by Sankarananda. This is a different kind of a. We are doing mostly Sankaracharya and Madhusudana Saraswati, but Sankarananda is supposed to be one of the good commentaries because he brings in a lot of very simplistic elaborations and gives a lot of details, which puts things in a way, which puts things in a very good perspective. Now, what he's saying is that in the chapter 15, what did Bhagavan say towards the end? He had mentioned two important things. He gave us a long lecture on what these three gunas or the vikaras are all about and why we need to understand them because they have the potential to sort of disturb our sadhana. They can disturb us, and how can they disturb us? Because they will act as barriers, they can act as obstructions, and they will prevent us from sort of making any genuine progress in our spiritual journey. And therefore, we need to know how they sort of seek to control us. And once we know what is the mechanics of our consciousness losing sight of its destination, that is the main thing. Kindly mute it. Thank you. So once we, Prakashji, kindly mute it. So once we know this, how these three elements work on our consciousness and they guide the patterns of our behavior, the patterns of our response to the external world, and our internal thoughts and stuff like that, we would be able to better appreciate, understand, and proceed on the path of enlightenment by practicing what did Bhagavan advise. You please understand the nature of these three gunas. And Bhagavan earlier had also mentioned Mama Maya Duratya, my game, this whole magical game called Sansara, is a very difficult thing to overcome. The only way you can overcome this is, of course, understand it, but don't fight the shadows. See the reality. Don't try to kill the snake because snake doesn't exist. You be aware of the rope, see the truth. Then the delusional appearance of all that appears as real will cease to frighten you, cease to disturb you. And the same thing he's trying to say, the one who sort of understands the game of these three gunas, even in the time of pralaya, he is not disturbed. Now we know that, of course, these three gunas are working on us. There is a pandemic, there are people dying, there's a lot of crisis, all that we passed through a few months back. One of the secrets is to, in fact, understand this process that yes, we are supposed to get angry, we are supposed to get frightened, we are supposed to, at a mental level, all these things will happen. But we are not this medical crisis, we are not this sickness, we are not the fear of death. We are the self. That alone sort of gives us a sense of equanimity. And Bhagavan says that if you want to have that, Brahma Bhavaya, if you want to sort of reach there, you want to reach that ultimate destination, then there is only, Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. In the verse number 26, he mentions, Mang cha yo abhyavicharena bhakti yogena sevate. He constantly meditates on that truth that is me. Sagunan Sam atitya etan gunan, comprehensively having overcome these three gunas, he will get what? Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. Then he sort of is capable of getting that Brahma Bhava. What is that? Non different from me. End of all weaknesses, all fears, all apprehensions, all insecurities, by getting divine grace in real sense, not as a blessing or anything. And in the final verse, he says that I am that Adhisthana, that Brahma Bhava that I'm assuring you of finding it. That Brahman is not a separate thing. It's just me. I am the Adhisthana. So you try to meditate on me. By meditating on me, you get all that is promised in all the Vedantic texts. That's what Bhagavan mentions. Now, in a beautiful way, he is sort of bringing the new chapter. Bhagavan has already mentioned, you meditate on me. What will be the normal question in the minds of a student? So, who are you that I will meditate on you? So, the kinds of question which earlier we also had, which Bhagavan has discussed in chapter 9, in chapter 13, he has said all that. In chapter 11, he showed his Vishwarupa. Similarly, the student again has this doubt because Bhagavan has again reiterated his advice that meditate on me, think about me, focus on the truth, that is me. I am the beginning and end of everything right before your eyes. And this I am saying is Pratyak Chaitanya. And you are just part of it and try to realize it. It's here and now. Meditate on that ultimate truth. That is me. So, who is that me? Who is that ultimate person that I am? That doubt is clarified in 15th chapter, and therefore it's named as Purushottama Yoga. And it's a very interesting, it's a very powerful chapter. This chapter in itself is a prayer. All the monks actually chant this chapter before they take their food. And if somebody can mug it up and sort of recite every day, people say that it has a lot of punyas, a lot of good vibration of its own, especially for both sannyasis and grihasthas, all. So I'm just trying to read through Sankarananda because I found it very interesting and I'd like to share with you. And then we will look at Sankara Bhashya and Madhusudana Saraswati, kind of similar. Both of them are very similar. And but this is a very good, very comprehensive introduction. So that's why I'm doing this first. Sattvam rajas tamaha ityadina sattvadi gunana jnana tat phala pratibandhakatvena. Sattva, Rajaha, Tama, these three gunas, what are they? Ityadina Sattva Gunadinam. So Bhagavan has narrated what are these three gunas. Jnana, Tat Phala. Jnana, what is the phala of Jnana? Jnanasya phalam is what? Moksha, liberation. And this particular Jnana Tat Phala, Jnana and Moksha. And these three gunas are Pratibandhakatvena Jnanino Vyopahyanam. By the wise guys, these gunas are, they deserve to be abandoned, to be controlled, to be overlooked. You can't control, you can't fight them. They will do their game. The only way is to see them, understand them, allow them to play, but you stay over it. You don't get enchanted or frightened. Bhagavan has advised that. Yanino Vyopahyanam Swarupam Karyam Cha Tadavattam Phalam Cha. What is the swarupa of these three gunas and what is the karya of these three gunas? He has mentioned what is this, how ahankara comes. Yes, in the beginning of the 14th chapter, he said that I do this bija adhana, garva adhana, hiranya garva appears, and then he starts doing the srishti. And it's all starting with these three gunas, and they manifest in different forms. And in whether your indriya, your sarira, your actions, your thoughts, everything, they take up the position. And there is this jnana or sukhatmaka, dukhatmaka, and prabrityatmaka, and a moha and a jnanatmaka, halasyatmaka. That is that jada kind of thing, which is tamas. These are the three ways you can divide all your thoughts, all your responses, all your good and bad activities. So swarupam, that what is this guna swarupa? Karyam. So what are the consequences thereof? Tad vatam phalam. And what are the consequences? You will get same punarjanma if you have rajasika prakriti, if you have sattvika, you will get a better rebirth for further sadhana, or might go to Brahma Loka. If tamas, then you will have mudha yoni prapti. That he has said, tat phalam. Guna atikramanam, tadvata phalam cha. These are the phalas. Guna atikramanam. And then you have to overcome these. You want to get rid of the phalas of these guna acting on you. So you have to overcome this guna atikramanam kritavataha. Lakshanam phalam cha samyak pratipadya. Adhyayante, at the end of it, how to sort of overcome these gunas and how to understand them. Towards the end of this chapter, he said, Guna atikramana upaya vivakshaya, in order to explain to us how to overcome. Because Arjuna had asked him three questions. Please tell me, what are the lingas, what are the markers for a person who becomes gunatita, is able to overcome these three gunas and their influences? The second question is, kimacharaha, how does it behave? what are his external responses? Final, how to reach there, that gunatita avastha. That is the final question. And then he's answering that Brahma, then these three questions, that upaya, vivakya, mamcha yo avyavicharena bhakti yogena sevate. What is that upaya? Ananya bhakti, without deviation, without any distraction, the one who meditates on the self. Bhakti here is not Sankirtanam, it's all Atma Chintanam. So who does that? Iti Brahmanusandhanam Gunatitya Sadhanatvena Uktam. How do we overcome these gunas, three gunas working on us? Through Brahma Chintanam. And Brahma is not a separate object. This is verily ourselves. So Atma Chintanam, meditating on oneself. Techa gunaha कतिचित् पुंस मुमुक्षुः कीदृशं ब्रह्म कथं तद् अनुसन्धानम् इत्याकाङ्क्षायां क्षराक्षरविलक्षणं पुरुषोत्तमाख्यम्. Now, if a person, that teja gunaha, these gunas, katichit, how many are there? Pungsha mumukshu kidrisam Brahma, and what kind of Brahma the mumukshu, the guy who is looking for liberation, needs to meditate on? Brahma, katham tad anusandhanam, and how does he look for that Brahman? What kind of meditation he will do? Ananya Bhakti, fine, but how to meditate? Bhagavan has already mentioned all that in chapter 5, in 6, and 9, of the 13th. Always he mentions that, but the student is not very satisfied because the student community is what? This whole Sansara Varga, all of us. We are represented by Arjuna. So Bhagavan is trying to take care of some intelligent guys through one question of Arjuna, then takes care of some intelligent students through some question of Arjuna by speaking what he did in chapter 13. Difficult stuff. Now he's trying to summarize it for the Madhyama Adhikaris, or little good, not completely dull. So he's trying to explain this chapter 15. So Tad anusandhanam iti akyankyayanam khyarakhara vilakhanam. Khyara and akhyara. And he's different from this. He's neither khyara nor akhyara. Vilakhanam purushottamakhyam is the ultimate self. So khyara is that vikara thing. Akhyara in that avyakta also you can refer, but he's beyond this khyara akhyara purusha tamakyam param brahma. Tad anusandhanam. How do you meditate on the ultimate truth called the param brahma? Anusandhanam tatra mahatam pravritim. Tattva phalam cha. And that particular sadhana that a person wants to do, that very superior sadhana, and the result thereof, which is liberation, pratipadayitum panchadasa adhyaya arabhyate. He starts the 15th chapter. Tatra ado mumukshoho sansara jugupsa. And what happens to the guy who's looking for liberation? Why is he looking for liberation? If a person is very happy in marriage, why should he break it? If a person is very happy in his, very happy with the way he is in samsara, why should he try to look for liberation? He should enjoy samsara. But he's saying, mumukyuho samsara yugupsa. Samsara, there is a little boredom. There is a sense of dissatisfaction, a bit of discomfort. Everything is fine, but then there is some sort of a restlessness. What's going on and how long it will go on? End of the day, there's boredom, there's question, there is a confusion, everything. Jugupsa, a bit of a, not hatred exactly, even though Jugupsa means that, it's some sort of a, what do you call it, strong discontent with the way we live our lives here. Vairagya sannyasadi moksha sadhana siddhai. Then you have some discomfort. Then Bhagavan transforms that into genuine detachment, vairagya, sannyasa. Sometimes you want to take, genuinely you want to take the robe and go and study somewhere. All these are ways of reaching liberation. Sannyasa is not liberation, vairagya is not liberation. These are all pathways. Sadhana siddhe sansaram vrikshatvena varnayati. Bhagavan is describing the sansara is a tree. But the sansara, this tree, is kind of upside down. The roots are above. And that is the divine source. And the sansara is spread all around. It's like a, upside down tree. And he's saying, and then he's saying, Sansara vrikshatvena varnayati. Sri Bhagavan uvacha. Now, before I go to this verse, where there will be mentioned a lot of it, I think I should look at our friend, our great, great benefactor of all of us. We have been doing him. So he's Madhusudana Saraswati. Let's look at his introduction so that we can do it and slowly go to the verse number 1. Purvadhyaya Bhagavata Sansara Bandha Hetun Gunan Vyakhyaya. He has already mentioned Sansara Bandha. Why are we trapped? We are trapped because of these 3 gunas. Tesam Atyayena. If you overcome them, you go beyond them. Brahma Bhava Moksho Mad Bhajanena Labhyate. If you focus on me, you do my bhajana, you will get it. Iti Uktam. Mamcha Yo Avyavicharena Bhakti Yogena Sevati Sa Gunan Samatititan Brahma Bhuyaya Kalapate. Iti 26th verse. Tatra Manusyasya Tava Bhakti Yogena Katham Brahma Bhava Iti Asankayam. Swasya Brahma Rupata Jnapanaya Sutra Buddha Ayam Sloka Bhagavata Ukta. Bhagavan himself, if a student has some doubt, how does one get that Brahma Bhava? Bhagavan himself is saying nothing else, just meditate on me. So that Brahma Rupata Jnapanaya, that I am verily that Brahma Rupa. You don't have to go anywhere. It's very consciousness, here and now. Meditate on it. So Brahmanu hi pratishtaham amritasya vyayasya cha sasvatasya cha dharmasya sukhasekantikasya cha sukhasya ekantikasya. So it's that, there is nothing beyond that. That is that ultimate destination. Niratisaya sukha, if you reach there. There's a lot of beautiful elaboration of it in the Tikas. Asya sutrasya vrittisthanya ayam panchodasa adhyaya aravate. So, this particular last verse, which Bhagavan says, you meditate on me, is saying in a way, that is the beauty of Madhusudana Saraswati and all great commentators. They see the symbolic representation of a very long, expansive lecture on truth, which is hidden in the last couple of verses of each chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And that is what makes Bhagavad Gita such a beautiful yet mysterious text. And one has to really go deeper to see the interconnectivity, which is so logically kind of arranged. It might appear as if people have, if it's written by human beings, it's Smriti, it is definitely written by human beings, but they must have worked on it so many million times to make it so much organized, internally coherent. There are maybe some people suspect additions here and there later on, but if you just look at this text, it's so beautifully arranged. Every chapter towards the end of it gives a hint about what is going to come in the next chapter. So, and then that is Sutrita. It's kind of mentioned as a thread linking two discourses. Okay. So he's saying Atra Sutrasya Vritti Sthanyo Ayam Panchodasa Adhyaya Aravate. So this is Vritti. This is the expansion of that symbolic representation of that ultimate advice that Bhagavan gives in the last 2 verses of chapter 14. Bhagavata Sri Krishnasya hi tattvam jnatva. By knowing what is that Satta Swarupa Bhagavan Krishna, what is that particular secret that he represents, how do we realize all that we have to realize by meditating on that tattva? That is what is mentioned in this chapter. Tat prema bhajanena gunatitaha. And with loving, full of loving praise and meditation on that particular thing. Love here is Shraddha, an opening, an aspirational association. Somebody is going to a school. There are 20 students going to a school, joining a course. One guy excels because he's the one who has gone there with a purpose. There is a strong aspirational attraction, and he lovingly does it. He's passionate about it, so he gets very good result because he's so focused and attentive. So that's what is the meaning here. It's not about jumping around, singing the song, praising Lord Krishna. A lot of people do that in certain religious traditions. Prema bhajanena gunaditaha san brahmamatram, san brahmamatram. That sat, that particular thing, san matra brahma, bhavam katham apnuyat loke iti. how does one actually get it, realize it in samsara amongst all of us? Tattva Brahmano hi Pratishta Aham. Oh, really? You are so confused and so scared of getting Brahma Bhava? I'll tell you how to get it. I am that. I am the foundation of all the truth that you describe as Brahman in the Bhagavad, in different spiritual texts that you read in the Upanishads, in the Puranas. Ityadi Bhagavad Vasanam Akarnya. When a student hears all that, Madhusudana Saraswati figuratively is trying to describe what is going on in the mind of Bhagavan. Just look at it. Because he's a great poet, so he dares to do that. He said Bhagavan compassionately is apprehending what are the questions in the minds of a student, because a good teacher is very much like a mom. He's like a mother. The mother knows the baby cries in the middle of the night. The father doesn't understand anything. The mother understands the baby has mostly wet diapers. She changes it. Maybe the baby is hungry. She feeds the baby. She knows from the behavior of the baby. Similarly, a good teacher, especially Bhagavan, is the mother of all mothers, father of all fathers. So he immediately sort of senses what could be a slight flickering confusion or doubt apprehension in the minds of Arjuna, his students, and therefore, Mama Tulya Manusho, I am Katham Eva Vadati iti. Somebody says, oh my God, you're saying that I am the ultimate one and I am also the foundation of Brahman and all that. Vismaya Vishtam, Ativhayat Lajjayacha. But he's scared. How does he ask? Oh, really? You are Brahman? Oh, really? That great, which is greater than all the great things. You're saying you are that? You're standing right in front of me? Lajjasa Kinchidavi Prastam Asaknum, Asaknubantam. So that Arjuna, who is a little scared of asking that question, really, sir, you are asking me to meditate on you to get all the answers and get that moksha. Arjunam Alakhya, Bhagavan sort of addresses as if he's speaking to Arjuna, but he's speaking to all of us. Kripaya, out of compassion and love and a sense of grace and anukampa in a way. Swaswarupam Vivakhihu. So he sort of begins to talk about what he is all about. And that is why this chapter is so important. So Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Urdhvamula Adha Shakha Mat Maswastham Prahurabhyayam Chandangsi Yasya Parnani Yastam Veda Savedavid. Now, just to make sense of it, Urdhvamulam Adha Sakham. So the root is upwards at the top of this tree. It's kind of upside down. Adha Shakam, the branches are downwards. Aswatham, that is the Aswatha tree, but here what he's saying, Swa, here is yesterday in Sanskrit. Swa is tomorrow. Aswatham, where there is no tomorrow, which means anitya, completely temporary, transitory. It's just there, it's not there. Prahuhu, and they say Avyayam. This is referred to as Avyaya. We had so far heard Brahman is Avyaya. Why is Sansara Avyaya? It's a pretty contradictory thing, isn't it? But Bhagavan is saying this. He's not joking with us. He's saying something. There must be a meaning. Avyaya in what sense? Because if you don't have jnana, this Janma Mrityu will go on. Sansara is on ending for the stupid. This game of imprisonment, again and again getting imprisoned and being punished in the jail and released at death, and again jailed through another life. This game of being jailed and being released for a few seconds or hours or days and coming back onto samsara again, this is obvious. There's no end to this game. So far, we are not liberated. He has mentioned in the last chapter how to get that liberation by meditating on Bhagavan. And therefore he's saying, Prahu Avyayam Chandansi Yasya Parnani. There are so many statements in these Vedas that you do this, you do that, and so many mantras and this and that, Karma Kanda, Yasya Parnani. Yatam Veda Saveda Ved. And the one who knows that particular thing is real Veda Ved. He knows the samsara and he knows that truth, the mula of all this, which is hiding behind all that is apparent. So you have this cause of this universe, which we are not being able to see. The effect is endless, is avyaya, and this is this upside down tree. That the cause is always present in the effect. The one who sees the cause, for him this effect is not avyaya. He'll go to the real avyaya, which is the self. He'll just turn inward. He's not trapped in the samsara, but we will look at how that is being made sense of. So what he's saying, tatra viraktasya eva sansarat bhagavat tattva jnane adhikaraha. So a person who has got a little amount of discomfort, I was mentioning, because of his some exposure, some realization, and he realizes that he doesn't want to hang around. He loses interest in this whole game of running after a particular goal, fulfilling it, and getting bored, dropping it, or finding another destination and going there and again getting bored. He becomes virakta. And once he has that virakti, he starts doing Atma Anusandhana as advised by Bhagavan Sansarat Bhagavata Bhagavat Tattva Jnana Adhikara. So basically saying that the one who is already finding the sansara very fulfilling, is like Elon Musk, very excited about whatever he's doing. I don't think he needs to read Bhagavad Gita. The mother of any desire to read Bhagavad Gita somewhere hides in an element of discomfort, some restlessness. I mean, it's a very interesting story. I met a lady who was a consultant in a very fascinating US-based consultancy firm. But there are a bunch of very young, bright NRIs who are from different backgrounds, and they were running that company. So when I talked to her, I said, how do you recruit people? And how do you run this? Because you don't have any office, you are all just running online, but doing very quality work all over the world. She said, I said, how do you get people? She said something which I liked that sentence. She said, yeah, but we always look for restless people, people who are very creative, highly qualified, but they're restless. Bhagwan is kind of looking for people who are kind of finding themselves a little restless in life because their minds are smarter, more incisive, more insightful. Therefore, their minds do not get easily enamored by the appearance of the samsara. It doesn't fascinate them. And therefore, they turn inward, and Bhagwan is waiting there. He's kind of trying to poach these interesting animals. Okay, so he's saying that sansarat bhagavat tattva jnane adhikaro na anyatha iti. Otherwise, no. Purva adhyaya uktam Parmeswaradhina Prakriti Purusha Sanyoga Karyam Sansaram. That we have discussed in chapter 14. This Prakriti Purusha, they connect. That we have also discussed. That was there also towards the end of this chapter 13 and chapter that Purusha Prakriti Sanyoga. Here, Purusha, if you remember, is Para Prakriti. And Prakriti is the Apara Prakriti. And Sanyoga Karyam Sansaram. Driksha Rupa Kalpanaya. There is an imagination of this sansara is a upside down tree. Barnayati Vairagyaya. Why is he talking like this? Why is he comparing this whole sansara as a tree which is upside down? Because he's trying to say that, look here, you find everything is in order. The truth of the matter is everything is inverted. I mean, Karl Marx, a very interesting guy. There is a book he wrote called German Ideology, where he said that what is ideology? That this democracy, I'm a liberal, I'm a democratic person, this, that. He says in that book that this ideology is essentially a false consciousness. Why? The real contradiction in society is kind of hidden, submerged, and inverted. The exact opposite you believe to be true. I don't know whether he ever read in Indian philosophy, but there is some proof that he was heavily influenced by Hegel, and Hegel was heavily influenced by Indian philosophy, to which he did not give any tributes. That I have, he in fact said that I'm not very happy with Indian philosophers, but he was deeply influenced, as some later research shows. Now, this particular thing, that reality can genuinely appear as inverted, and you might believe that to be true. But that in everyday life we also see many times what exactly is not the reality is presented as that. So he's saying that this particular Bruksha Kalpanaya, why Bhagavan is referring to that as an upside down tree? To create detachment in us and to tell us that what you say to be in order, what you see to be in order is essential upside down. You do not see what is the reality. But I'm telling that to you, make sense of it. Prastuta gunatita tva upayatvat tasya. Therefore, because that is the upaya, in order to have that Brahma bhava prapti, to have that moksha liberation, you need to understand how this samsara is essentially inverted, which you find to be in order. Okay. Now, before I'll just stop here and go back to Sankarananda, because he kind of elaborates it in a very sweet manner. Urdhva moolam abhyakta mahadadir api parama mahatvena ati sukshmatvena. We have already discussed that there is this Brahma or the Nirakara Brahman, and then what happens? That sankalpa is there, that maya comes into picture, and then out of which he creates that mahat. And of course, first he does the Hiranyagarbha, that sankalpa, then mahat comes in, and out of mahat comes ahankara, and out of ahankara you have the panchatanmatras. These are the saptamatrikas. Mahat, ahankara, and panchatanmatras. Out of them, then you have pancha jnanendriyas, pancha karmendriyas, pancha bhutas, and manas, right? You have appearing all this after this. And so then this is called the Sukshma Sarira. And then you have pancha karmendriyas, right? So together, all these 24 tattvas, these are all undergoing changes, right? And so what he's saying, Urdhva Mula, so he's saying Urdhva Moolam Abhyakta Mahadadir. Abhyakta is what? That Prakriti, Mula Prakriti. Mahadadir, then Mahat Ahankar, all that. Parama Mahatvena Ati Sukshmatvena. So that particular, that at the beginning of it, that is very subtle, because when Srishti starts, it is from subtle to gross, from invisible to visible. That is how we understand it. Ati sukshmatvena, prakasakatvena, sarvaspadattvena, sarvavyapakatvena, sarvakaranattvena sa param brahma urdhvamiti uchyate. Now this param brahma, urdhva, that urdhva buddha is what is mentioned. Sometimes this prakriti is also referred to as mahat brahma, isn't it? You remember that prakriti is referred to as mahat brahma, not because it is brahma, because it is so subtle and it's the cause of this whole universe, and therefore that is referred to as Param Brahma, Mahad Brahma. And therefore he's saying the same thing, Paramaspadattvena, Sarva Vyapakatvena. It's all pervasive, Sarva Karanatvena. It's the cause of this universe, because Brahma doesn't have any vikara, it's not the direct cause, it's the Maya, the ignorance, the avidya, which metamorphoses itself into the samsara. So Param Brahma, Urdhvam iti uchyate. So this Urdhvam Mula, Urdhvam is that Param Brahma. That is not that Vedantic sense of Brahma. It is that Srishti Prakriya we're discussing. That is Urdhvam iti uchyate. That is referred to as Urdhvam. That what is that? That is that Mula Prakriti. Sarvatamotvad Brahmana Urdhvam iti vyapadesaha. And because it's subtlest, it is the cause of all causes, and therefore that is referred to as Urdhvam iti vyapadesaha. Urdhvam uchritam utkrishtatamam. And it's excellent. It is the subtlest, it's the most refined. Yat param brahma tadeva maya savalam. And that param brahma is maya savalam. That means maya upahita. Maya ya savalam. Without maya, will it create? No. There will be no sankalpa. Only when there is maya, there is sankalpa. Bhagavan doesn't have any vyaktitva or any sankalpa or any ichha or any jnana or guna or anything, till he sort of accepts Maya as a certain upadhi, name and form, begins to happen. Maya savalam moolam vijam yasya saha urdhva mulaha. In that particular time, that in that powerful creative energical Maya, that seed of which that is called urdhva moolam. Sansara vrityaha sriti prasiddha, that is verily described and mentioned in the Upanishads. Urdhva moola Avak Shastra Eswa aswatha sanatana. This is in Kathopanishad. Iti urdhva moolam avaksakam brukhyam yo veda samprati iti cha shrutehe. So this is another shruti. He's quoting from two sources. Now it's more or less the same thing, that this first half of this particular verse is taken from Kathopanishad. Yatha vatasya vijam abhyaktam ati shukshmam avigyam. Just look at a huge banyan tree. Where does it rise from? From a tiny seed, isn't it? And so in Chandogya Upanishad, what happens? Bhagavan is trying to that Asadeva Swamedam Agrasi. In order to explain this to his son, he says, why don't you bring that fruit of the banyan tree? The son brings a fruit and he says, okay, separates in two parts. Then he goes to the series, okay, split that into another two parts. And finally, he said, what remains? He says, I don't see anything. Then he explains that is how the cause is not visible. And this tiny seed, splitting it into more parts, you cannot even see it. And that is what has become this grand tree. So whatever is completely invisible, is tiny, is completely beyond our ability to, sort of locate it. That particular thing is the cause of this universe. That is what was mentioned there. So that is what he's saying. Jathavatasya vijam abhyaktam ati shukshma avigyam. Very difficult to locate it, to know it. Apara Sakti Samparnam, but it has maximum energy, unlimited power to create this whole universe. Cha Tatha Jagad Vijam, and that is the seed of this whole universe. Vyaktam, that particular, when it becomes manifest, it becomes Vyakta. Brahmapi Ati Shukshmam Avigyam Apara Saktimatam Samparnacha Bhavati. And then this whole thing, it becomes this whole grand thing. It appears Tatah Eva Ati Vistaro Ati Vichitra Sansara Brukhyastam. And therefore he's referring to that Mula Sakam, because it's such a Vichitra, it's a grand thing, unimaginably complex, appearing out of what? That particular Vija, out of which this whole manifestation process has ensued. Other Sakam, and then the branches are downwards. How do we make sense of it? Other Sakam, Abhyaktan Mahato Ahankarat Panchatana Matrani. How do we put it in sequence? The whole Srishti Prakriya is for Bhagavad Gita, or as per the other texts that we have studied. It starts with the Abhyakta, that Mula Prakriti, then Mahat, the Buddhi or Mahat as per Sankhya. Mahataha Ahankara, out of Mahat comes Ahankara, and then Ahankarat Panchatana Matrani. So Mula Prakriti is only, and then you have this Prakriti Vikriti, Pancha, and these are the Sapta, these Ahankara, Buddhi, and five Tanamatras, these seven. They are both Prakriti Vikriti. The rest of them are Vikaras. So these are the rest 16 are all Vikaras, they are only modifying. Tanmatra. Then Pancha Tanmatrebhya, out of these Pancha Tanmatras, Pancha Mahabhutani, the five Pancha Mahabhutas. And then Sravanan Mahadadi Vikaraha Sarve Prakritehe Adha Adhastatvad Adha iti uchyate, because they are downwards, and therefore, because in the sense, how is he trying to say high, up, and all? It's not in terms of directions or dimensions. It's in terms of how subtle they are. If they are very subtle, the word he's mentioning is urdhvam. When it's more gross, becomes more manifest, he's saying going downwards, because then it's closer to samsara. So keeping our ignorance in mind, our level of understanding in mind, this urdhvam and adha, these words are being used. Adho, adha. Adha means what? Adha sabdavachya mahadadayah. Starting with mahad, after prakriti, after abhyakta. That is mahadadayah. Sakha iva sakha dasya so adha sakha. What is adha sakha? That's samasa. Sakha jaise jiske sakha hain. As if they are real branches, they are not. but they are spreading out of a root cause, and that's how they sing adhasakaha. Mahad ankura ahankaraha. And what is that particular thing, that sprout emerging out of that mahad? That is ahankara. It begins to sprout. Skandaha panchatanamatrani. What are the main branches out of after the trunk? These main branches, Skandaha panchatanamatrani. And then Shakha pancha mahabhutani upasakha asya bhavanti ityartha. Then these are shakhas and upasakhas, these pancha mahabhutas, then the indriyas and other things will slowly come. Yasya mahadadayah sakha bhavanti tam adhasakham aswatham maya karyatvena so na tishtati iti aswathaha. Why is it called aswathaha? That Banyan tree. Because it doesn't have a tomorrow, no swaha. There is no tomorrow there. And because it is complete, it's a karya, it's a product. All karya rupas are temporary. Whatever is created will last a while. That is the Vedantic insight. Anything which is created will last a while. Because all creations by nature are impermanent. Tam etam kshana pradvangsinam aswatham. This kshana pradvasa, every moment it's appearing to be there, then it gets destroyed. Kshana pradvangsinam aswatham sansara vrikhyam avyayam. Why is the sansara vriksha being referred to as avyaya, without an end? It's endless. In what sense? Vyayo. So nasaha tadrahitam avyayam. Actually, something which doesn't have any end, without any nasa, any destruction, that is called avyaya, right? Why is it called avyaya? He'll explain. Nitya miti prahu. It's almost nitya. In what sense? He will tell us. Prarochanokti pramohita kamino mimansakaha na kadachit anidrisham jagat iti Jagan Nityam iti vadanti ityartha. Now he is taking out his guns and firing at all these karma kandis. He's saying, you foolish Brahmins doing so many rituals that you will go to Shwarga, do the Agnihotras and do all the Nitya Naimitika karmas. You are forgetting that you are anitya, you're temporary, your goals are temporary, your sadhanas are temporary. You're just lost there. They think it's Nitya and they accordingly quote different Shruti Vakyas. So, it's like you're going to buy something from a Chinese shop. They are selling a product which has a life of a few weeks. But if you're in India, and the first question you ask is it going to last long? And what is he going to tell you? Of course, it's going to last a lifetime. That's what he's going to tell you. Because they know this product is going to be there for a few weeks. This samsara is there for a few seconds, depending on how you look at it. But these Mimamsakas are super active, super excited about their karmas. Prarosanokti pramohita, because there are a lot of stuti vakyas in Vedas. In order to make you interested in this karma kandas, and then there are a lot of priests very happy to do rituals for you. Kamino, and they are full of desires. This Mimamsaka, this Purva Mimamsakas, not Mimamsakas, because Vedantis are also Mimamsakas, but Uttara Mimamsakaha. Na kadachit anidrisham jagaditi jagan nityam iti vadanti ityartha. They believe the sansara is nitya. Let's do a lot of karma kanda, have fun. Chandangsi sansara vrikhyasya anityatya dukha rupatva vyamohakatva anarthaka karitwadi dosha jatam chadayanti. Now, this is a very beautiful way of kind of making fun of these karma kandi Brahmins or the people who are interested in rituals. What is he saying is that this chandansi yasya parnani, the chandas, the Vedic chandas are the leaves of the sansara vriksha. That means the Shastra selectively are quoted by a few people to sort of encourage you to do a lot of rituals and not read Upanishads, not do meditations, not look for Brahman, not do Upasana, but do a lot of rituals, have a lot of land and house and this and that. He's saying, making fun of them, Chandansi. So here Chandansi New Sense will be a lot of these self-help management books where they tell you how to grow rich and have a lot of money and have good relations. So many books are there. So these are the Chandangsi. Sansara Vrikhyasya Anityatva Dukkha Rupatva Vyamohakatva. And they also blind you. Actually, it's full of pain, it's frustration, isn't it, in the long term? But they create that delusion in you. Vyamohakatva Anarthaka Karitvati Dosha Jatam. Out of these kind of mistakes, these are all meaningless things. Out of these ajnana, datam, chadayanti, they cover it up. Whatever the mistakes, they cover it up. By looking at some words of solace, or consolation, or motivation, they're super excited and go back to samsara. And Dhruva, Dyauhu, Dhruva, Prithivi. So there are these sentences in Vedas. They quote them selectively. Swarga is permanent. Prithvi is permanent. Let's do the karmas. Dakshinavantu amritatvam bhajante. And if you do all this, those who give the dakshinas to the Brahmins, they will become immortal. So you must, and the ones who get the dakshina, the priests, they will also get Swarga Prapti. Very good. Swarge loke na bhayam kinchin nasti. There is no fear. You should go to heaven. You are afraid? Go to heaven. There is no fear there. Swarga loka amritatvam bhajante. The ones who go to Swarga, they get immortality. They enjoy the nectar of life, the bliss of life. Esavaha punyah sikrito brahmalokaha. Those who do all these punyas and dharmas and all, they verily enjoy the benefits of being in brahmaloka. Ityadi prarochana vakyehi. These are prarochana vakyas to motivate you. Prarochana vakyehi guhayanti iti chandansi. And they kind of hide this whole reality of the sansara. Rik jasu samadini yasya sansara vrikyasya maya mayasya. The sansara which is delusional. These Veda Vakyas, depending on what he is interested in. These very Vedas also have Upanishad Vakyas. Adhikari Vedas, Sankara says. Depends on what you are interested in. Vedas have everything. They have also Jyotisha and some spells and stuff like that. Depends on what you are looking for. Whatever you're looking for, it's a big mall. You can buy. It's like a big departmental store, and you can buy anything you want, depending on whatever you're looking for. So, Dukhyasya Mayamasya Parnani Iva Parnani Bhavanti. These are the leaves of that tree, as if they are leaves. Yatha Parnani Sarvato Vrukya Dosam Abritya Akhyatam Rakhyanti. What do the leaves do? He's having a metaphoric description of it. As if the leaves cover up the tree to protect it. Similarly, these kind of prarochana vakyas, this kind of beautiful sentences in the Vedas kind of hide the anityatva and the dukkha purnatva of the sansara. They hide the truth. Sansara vrikhyam bardhayanti ityartha. So they also kind of elaborate and expand the acceptability and how beautiful this sansara is. They kind of enhance its beauty. Tam etam pratipadita lakshanam veda palasham. That is this veda, full of leaves. Veda palasham. Dharma prasavam. And this born out of this sansara is how is born out of dharma and adharma. Our papa punya are going to explain what kind of gunas we are going to have and how many times we are going to make chakkars of this sansara. How many times we are going to just come and go. Janma maranadi dukheika phalam. That is the only benefit of this papa punya. You will be born, you will die, you will have some dukkha and a lot of dukkha and little sukha and all that. Sansar vrikyam samulam yo veda. The ones who knows the sansara vrikyam, but comprehensively, along with its mula, recognizes the cause of the sansara as avidya, that mula, and what is beyond that. That is the guy who will get liberation. Samyak vijanati. He knows it very well. Sa veda vid. Right? Vedartha vid ityartha. He is the one who knows the meaning of Veda. He is the actual guy who has an exposure to the ultimate truth of life. That is what he mentions. Nanu anruta jada dukkhatmakasya sagunai vyamohokataya janamadi anartha hetuho sansara vrikyasya vedanena vidusaha katham vedartha vitvam. The student has a very strong question. You narrated the samsara as an inverted tree, and it is full of pain and delusion. And the guy who knows the nature of the samsara, he knows the truth. How do you say that? Because actually, knowing the samsara, you cannot know the truth. Because you yourself have said that the samsara is essentially the root cause of all our pain and frustration. So, knowing the samsara, what kind of happiness is he going to get? Very valid question, and Bhagavan is going to elaborate and explain that. So, he's saying, Katham Veda Vitvam Siddhyati iti ched. If somebody asks that question, the response is like this: Uchyate Yasmad Vijat Utpanna Yo Vukhyah Satu Tadrasa Eva Bhavati. Now, whatever tree has emerged out of a certain rasa, certain juice, certain quality, out of a seed, whatever is there in the DNA of that plant or whatever, that is what the form is going to be in tune with, isn't it? So if you have, he's giving another example, Yatha Tikta Rasa Nimba Vijat Utpanno. If you take one seed of a nimba, a lemon tree, Nimba Vrukshah Tikta Rasatmaka Eva Bhavati Na Anyatha. Now, if you chew the leaves of a lemon tree, are the leaves very tasty? No, they're bitter. Because that is particular juice, that is the essence of that tree. So the cause is verily present in the consequence, in its product, in its form, in its karya. So I am Swam Nyayah Sarvatrapi Prasiddha. Everybody knows this is the principle. Evam cha Evam Chideka Rasad Brahmanah Sakasad Utpanah Sansar Brikhyah Chidrasa eva bhavati. Now he is twisting the meaning of this particular thing. Who knows Sansar Vritya verily knows the Veda. In what sense? Not somebody who is elated and super excited about Sansara by feeling obsessed about its form or formal appearances, but the one who knows the Sansara in the light of what is its root cause. The one who is looking at a guy who is super excited and singing and playing guitar very well, and there are two people. Somebody knows these music people, so he smiles. And then another guy is super excited, he plays so well. The other guy is, yeah, but he's actually, you know what? He's on some substance today. He's not picking up the rhythm well, and then he's in a trance. He's on some substance. The other guy knows because he knows music. He knows how things work out when somebody is playing on the stage. So he's not super excited. He knows that this guy has taken some substance. But the other one who doesn't know anything about it is super excited. Now, the one who knows samsara comprehensively knows that this samsara is an appearance, an inverted appearance of a deeper, subtle truth called the Brahman. So that way he's saying, out of this cause, the samsara has emerged. These appearances are very delusional. They sort of take possession of us. But the one who sees the root of it sees the reality. He doesn't see the snake, he sees the rope. So he verily is seeing the whole thing. He has the comprehensive knowledge of the snake. He tells, yes, there is a snake, but that snake is actually a rope. That is how he looks at it. So he's saying, Evam Chidega Rasad, because that is the pure consciousness out of the sansara as a metamorphose and taken this form because of Maya, Brahmana, Sakasad, Utpanna. That is the Nimitta Karana out of this whole sansara has appeared. Sansara, Vriksha, Chidrasa Eva Bhavati. It's verily the same. That is that particular thing because that Jiva, that Jiva and Brahma Aikya cannot be at all underlined or proved unless we accept that this samsara is verily Sarvam Vasudeva Miti. All of this is Vasudeva. And the appearances, we have to just discard it. Look at the root of it. Tadaha Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. All of this verily Brahma. Ityadi Srutivihi Sansara Vrikshaha Swabija Eva Bhavati Vrikshatvat Nimba Vrikshapat. There is a logical argument he gives from Nyaya Sastras saying the way the Nimba Vriksha having that bitterness in its seed, that bitterness permeates the whole plant, same way, because this Brahman, Sansara Vriksha, has emerged out of the Brahman, which is Chideka Rasa, Chit Eka, that pure consciousness. That is the only juice of this whole universe. So obviously, this Sansara is full of that Chaitanya Rasa, Chideka Rasa. इत्यादि इत्यादि युक्तिभिश्च, these are the arguments, tad udita swanubhavena, and you study the Shruti and Yuktis, and then you have Apuroksha Jnana, direct experience of the truth. Cha imam sansar vikhyam siddhika rasam karana brahma matrameva. Then you lose interest in the appearance, the karya, but you go to the karana, the root of it. Yaha suddhatma pandito veda, that wise guy, and who is purified antakarana, who can know this. Sa vedartha vid eva syat. He is verily knowing what is the purpose. Why is he mentioning this? Because we do not want to dismiss 95% of Veda is karma kandas. So you are saying they are nonsensical? No, they're relevant for people who are agyanis. So they want to accept samsara as real. How do you take them towards moksha? Veda says you do karma kanda, don't sleep on bed, don't waste your time watching television, do some rituals. Very good, because then the rajasic energy gets activated, the tamasic energy gets subdued. Then he is interested in Veda, he learns a little Sanskrit, then he has some curiosity. What is there in the Upanishads? He learns, the sentences are beautiful. I want to read more of it. Loses interest in karma kanda, drops the rituals, goes towards meditation. Then he is on the path of enlightenment. But starts where? Some karma kanda, some prayer, some rituals, some rules and regulations. So Veda is not completely useless. So he's saying that, okay, the whole gamut of things are there. You start somewhere, the end result after Vairagya is in fact entry into the universe of enlightenment. But we cannot say that 95% is completely nonsense. No, they are relevant for the one who is yet to start the journey. So let him start with some basic rituals, some self discipline, and stuff like that. So, Sarve Veda Yat Padam Amananti. That is that Brahman, right? Sarve Veda Yat Padam Amananti. That verily is the truth. Iti Nyayana Sarva Vedartho Brahma. Tad Ved Brahma Ved Eva Bhavati. Kasmin Bhagavo Vigyate Sarvamidam Vigyatam Bhavati. That is this question which is discussed in Chandogya Upanishad. Knowing what, you can know everything. That you try to know the cause of all this. The Upadana Karana. The gold itself explains what the necklace is all about. Necklace in itself has no existence without gold. Iti nyayana sarvajnascha bhavati. Then he knows. Not that he will know all details of the sansara, but he knows what is the basic root of the sansara. Knowing this, he understands sansara. Not that he becomes an expert in trade and commerce and archaeology and medicine and wildlife and the endless sciences are there. No, he doesn't. He's not a Vishwavit. He's not a Sarvavit. He's Sarvagya. So he knows what is the general principle underlying all these diversities. Sarvagyasya tasya kartavyam cha vakhyati. And what is the duty of that guy? Sa sarvavit bhajati mam. That Bhagavad Gita Bhagavan says. That guy who knows the samsara verily loses interest, knows what is the root of it. It's my Maya, and then he prays me. And he meditates on the truth. Ataha karana jnanena karyasya vrikhyasya karana matratva vijnanada vidiso vedartha vitvam siddhyati ityarthaha. And that is how, if you know the causal aspect of the appearance called samsara, you can verily have a good understanding of whatever is appearing as samsara. That is where we'll sort of bring today's discussion to an end, and we'll sort of go back to our friend Madhusudana Saraswati. There's a bit of interesting sort of follow up on what we discussed in Sankarananda. In the beginning of the chapter will be a little lengthy, and then or other verses will follow very quickly because there's not much in this chapter. We'll make very quick progress. So you have to have patience. So I'll put an end to the YouTube, and then if you have any questions, you can ask me in the Google Meet.